Hi, Holly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy that you're here. I just finally had to hit record because we were talking and getting to know each other. I'm just like, oh, we're missing all this juicy stuff. Like, let's just go. It's really wonderful having you on the Everyday Mystic and meeting you. I feel, and I never used to feel like this, but I feel like this, where we are kindred spirits, not only in this spiritual work and maybe how we're expressing in these realms, but also in our ancestry as being Asian sisters. So happy to have you here as another a face like mine, which, like I said, I didn't used to really care about that all that much. Being an adopted person and growing up among white people, those are my people. That's how I felt, that's how I saw myself inside. And it wasn't until I started exploring my Asian heritage, feeling comfortable in my own Asian skin, that it's like I wanted to have other Asian faces and people, and people who have history like mine. And we even have an even deeper connected history because we're both adopted Asians.
Yeah, I feel like we have so much to talk about in that space.
Oh,
Just,
so much.
yeah, like just hearing you talk about, growing up with all like these white people around you, like that was the same for me. Like the school that I grew up in was like 99% white.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know if you felt the same as me, but it's well, let me ask you this first. How old were you when you were adopted?
I was a baby.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you knew nothing different. You absolutely, your life was your life growing up in this white community.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you were a bit older, right?
I was 3 years old, but I don't have memories before that. So for me too, that was all I knew, at least in the conscious mind. And so for me, and I don't know if you relate with this, is that it becomes your life. You don't have another reference point. You have nothing else to look at beyond that. But you look in the mirror and you go, wait a minute, like it just breaks your reality to some degree. It's like this fractured feeling inside of like, okay, I feel like these people. I feel like I look like my family, and I know that the visual representation of someone isn't all of who they are, but when you look around and that's who you see, and you speak their language and you have their customs, you eat their food, you feel like them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's all I felt like. But when I would look in the mirror, it was like, oh, wait a minute. This doesn't feel right. Like something's wrong here.
Yeah, for me, I felt kind of like an outcast, when I would look in the mirror or when I would, I guess, connect in with like who I am. I was just like, I was like rejecting like the Asian side of me because everything in my world was like white. And so it felt like I wanted to try and fit in, and I couldn't really fit in because I'm Asian and I have this Asian background, and you can't deny that. But I tried.
Yeah. Tried. And I can certainly relate to that, the trying to deny that for so many years. I'm happy we can sit here together and look at each other, see each other as, Asian sisters, also see each other in this space, like spiritual sisters. Because before we started recording, we were talking about how, this looking within, the searching of who am I because of being an adopted person and not looking like your family or your community. I certainly felt more driven, or at least I feel like that was the why of, or the catalyst to why I started really asking that question of who am I? Why am I here? And it led me down and into, the path. I mean, the rest is history, right? Of like the where it takes you. But it took me certainly into the story of, well, discovering my Asian heritage and exploring that and not feeling shameful about it, but even deeper deeper into the who am I as a soul in this body.
Yeah.
So tell us about your path with this. Did you experience something similar?
Yes, it was very like interwoven, and how my soul kind of took me on this journey was because I desired love. Like I wanted my soulmate, and I wanted love, and I wanted that like relationship. And so as I got older, that was like kind of my focus. But what I didn't realize was that I had all these wounds from being adopted, from feeling not good enough, from feeling not lovable, like I don't fit in, not worthy, all those things that were the blocks that were preventing me from the relationship that I wanted. And so because I desired that relationship so much, it was a bit of a catalyst, or was the catalyst that really caused me to like dig into my healing. And through that process, that's when I discovered all of these childhood wounds from adoption, from even just growing up in my family, the dynamics and, you know, unmet needs. Like every child has unmet needs, and mine were all around love and all around feeling good enough and not, you know, not being worthy, not thinking I'm lovable. I talk about when I had the aha that it had to do with my adoption. I was sitting at home. It was like a Saturday afternoon, and I was feeling sorry for myself because I was in like this toxic relationship with this guy who really didn't want to be in a relationship with me, but I like really wanted to be in a relationship with him. And I was feeling sorry for myself because I wasn't spending time with him that day. And I was like scrolling on Facebook, and there was this TED Talk that somebody shared. And the TED Talk was titled, "When Do Babies Learn?" And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started watching it. And the woman presenting, I wish I should look up her name. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. But she was talking about all this research, and they discovered that babies learn about 4 months in the womb when like they recognize their mom's voice, her energy, what she feels like. And in that moment, I like burst out into tears because I realized like after I was born, I was basically put into foster care because my biological mom had indicated that she wasn't sure if she wanted to put me up for adoption or not. So I guess that was just the procedure, is that the baby goes into foster care while the mother decides. And so I knew that that had happened with me. And so in that moment, when I was listening to that TED Talk, I burst out into tears because I was like, oh my gosh, like I never heard her voice again. That was, it was like I recognize, I always say it was like a tattoo on my soul. And like subconsciously in my energetic being, like I wasn't consciously aware of that until I watched that TED Talk. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense. Like all these abandonment issues, all these like if my own biological mom doesn't want me, then who would want me kind of talk, you know, even though my understanding and perception of my adoption, I'm so grateful. Like logically, it all makes sense. And when I think about the position that my biological mom was in, it makes sense. And I'm so grateful that she did what she did. So I spent my whole life, you know, being very grateful. And the family that I grew up with, like my family now, like they're great. And so I was always in this gratitude. So I was like, no, I don't have any like adoption issues. And then it was like, boom, yes, you do. I was like, okay. So then I was like, okay, this is where my journey is taking me next, because my journey has been pointing me to that. But it wasn't until, I guess that was around age 30. I'm 43 now. That was, I would say about like 31, 32 was when I kind of had that insight, or when I really started diving into consciously healing those abandonment wounds.
What a gift. I'm so glad you listened and you took the path, because I think we can all have those awakening moments, and it's everything is a crossroads, right? Because we have free will in this life, and it's just like, oh, you can get a sign like the TED Talk, you listened and you watched it. From there, you listened to that message, you allowed yourself to feel and break open so that you could then move towards more healing. But a lot of people could just, put up the walls, go, oh, that's too painful, not going to heal. I'm not going to go there, even though we so desperately want and need to heal. But the work that it takes to actually do it, some people either don't have the strength or the will or the courage to do that. So I want to honor you in taking the path and to actually putting in the work, and really being devoted to your own healing. It opens you up, right, to then so much more. But in that moment, you don't see it, right? In the moment, you're like, this feels hard.
Yeah.
This is really painful. I don't think I want this, and can easily be diverted into into not, right?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. There was this one teacher, he was like a personal or what was he called? He was like kind of like a Tony Robbins kind of guy. And he once said, when you're willing to do what is hard, life becomes easy. And when you're not willing to do what is hard, or there's like the way of opposite saying that, but it's just like your life will be hard if you're not willing to just like do the work. And so that always resonated with me. And I was like, okay, I have to move through this. I want to move through this because I don't want this feeling to be running my life and me creating my life from this space. I want to move beyond it. I want to digest and process all of this so I can move beyond. And I also do believe that we all have the capacity, whether we believe it or not, to overcome any obstacle that we are faced, any challenge that we are faced. That's why we were given it, is because we can overcome it. Like, I don't think that we ever experience something that is too much. I mean, sometimes it happens where people don't overcome these things, but it doesn't mean that they don't have the capacity to. They just maybe might not realize that they have the capacity to.
Yes. So much of this life are those realizations, the waking up to your strength, your resilience, your love that you have within, your resolve, just continuing to wake up and allow all of that to unfold. And trust comes up a lot, I think, in this, or along this path of continuing to trust in that this is all for you, right? It's not the universe, the God, or, some evil force working against you, that all of this is for you once you start to synthesize it in that way and start to actually see it through that lens. Then that's the gifts start to, arrive, and the the healing begins, and all the beautiful stuff starts to flow in. So for you, when you went down this healing path, when did you start to feel like, oh, this is so worth it? This is, like stuff is flowing in. Like I'm so happy that because I know it's a up and down and around kind of journey. It's not this linear thing like, I'm going to heal and then you're healed and you're like, ooh, that was easy. I mean, I know what it takes. But I guess at what point did you feel like this is so worth it and I'm sticking to this?
Well, I guess it was in my early 30s when I had these realizations around healing these abandonment wounds and like shedding light on that and doing the inner child healing and all of that inner work that has to be done to heal wounds and traumas and remove old programmings and unsupportive programmings. And then, a big part of my story is really around like that toxic relationship that I was in at that time, because there was literally like a switch that went off in me. And I was like, I'm over it. I'm so freaking over it. And like, thank you. this has been great. And you can leave my life now. And that's when I was like, yes, this is awesome. And so that's really when I had this like pivotal transition in my life. And then since that point, like my husband just like came into my life. Like he was already in my life and we were friends. And then it was just like, then I was just like, oh my God, it's you.
It was you the whole time.
Yeah. And so we've had so much fun together. And that's really like, since that point is when I knew like it was worth it. And it is worth it. So like when things come up now, it's like, okay, let's process this. Let's move through this.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you were saying earlier, you know, all of it is there, right? So it's in there. And I think that, you know, the quote that you had mentioned says it all about, you know, doing the hard work makes life easy, because if you don't do the hard work, all of the things that make it hard are still there. You know, they're not going away because you don't address them. Yeah. They're not going away because you're not working on them. They're there working in your life. They're there creating havoc and accidents and illness and problems and toxic relationships, right? So they're there showing up. And so your life's going to be hard either way, right? So it's like, do you want it hard, but you're working on it to make it better and easy and easeful and glorious? Or you want to have just the hard, just that only, and it just continue to be that shittiness?
Yeah. And one thing that I learned in this process too is that there's two ways to transform and heal. One way is through a lot of suffering and pain. And I did that for the first 30 odd years of my life. And then what I love to do now is transform through joy. So it doesn't mean that you're not feeling challenged or feeling sad or fearful or whatever quote unquote negative emotions, what we've deemed negative emotions to be. It doesn't mean you don't necessarily experience those, but your baseline can still be joy. There's still like when you connect into the joy within your being and you don't identify with the sadness as like, I'm sad. It's better to say like, I'm experiencing sadness, but I'm not sad. I'm Holly. I'm joyful. I'm this joyful being that is not that emotion. And so when you learn that and shift your perspective that, hey, I can transform through joy, it moves so much faster. And that baseline is still joy. So that's another thing I want to add, because it doesn't have to be this like slog. You know, it has to be this slog until you realize it doesn't have to be.
That's right. Until you decide that, oh, wait, actually, this can be fun and this can be joyful and this can be transformative in all these positive ways. And I think it's when we, like you said, over-identify or identify with ourselves as what I would just call victim consciousness. You know, it's just like you are sad and depressed and abandoned and, you know, hurt and all of these things. It's like, yeah, that those things happened and you can acknowledge them and heal and love and embrace those parts of you that were hurt in those moments of time and by those people, but you can also let go and forgive them and move through it. And what I get from all of this is that what we're really discovering then is the trueness of ourselves, the soul self, like you referred to as like the Holly. The Holly is a joyful being, and that to me speaks of, you know, us getting in touch with that truest innermost part of our being, and being connected to that and allowing that to be how we live in life.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, I'm not actually Holly. You know, there's like our soul. We are everything. We are all connected. we're just like in this human experience, you know, we have these individual identities, but they're not our true identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you have a moment when you met that true identity, or when you realized that that's who you were? Or was it a folding of?
Yeah, you know, it's been this concept that I think, you know, a lot of people like in the spiritual space talk about. I love Eckhart Tolle. He talks about it all the time. And oftentimes I feel it when I'm listening to him or in meditation. You know, I'm still very much a human. I'm much more awake than I was before, but I'm still not like this fully awake and conscious being. I still have, you know, the ego challenges. And at the same time, I do have those moments when I feel like the unity consciousness, when I feel the connectedness of everybody, and I realize that like none of what is going on in my life or how I identify is real. It's like a story that is just playing. So it waves in and out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and those stories are not just your own too, right? You're like being imprinted with other people's stories, society stories, and all these other ones that you can inform the human experience, but they can a bit tarnish the soul experience, right? So you mentioned Eckhart Tolle and, you know, when you listen to his words or what he has to say or meditate, are there other things that put you into that space of where you feel that unity and that connection with your soul?
Dreams.
Yeah, let's do it.
Definitely in the dream world.
When did your connection to the dream world really begin?
I've always had a connection with the dream world, but I was not aware of it until 2017. So I think for me in my journey, I really had to go through that healing journey that we were speaking about in order for me to have the energetic capacity and awareness to dive into my gifts as a dream oracle. Mm-hmm. And so I spent basically most of my life thinking I was a muggle and thinking that I didn't have any spiritual gifts and I wasn't intuitive and I wasn't clairvoyant or claircognizant or any of the clairs. I was like, all these other people are so magical and I'm just, I'm like, I don't have any, I don't know what spirit says to me. And then it wasn't until I went to Egypt with my spiritual teacher. So she's like the woman that I'm currently working with. Her name is Brooke still, and done healing work with her. And I just basically thought my spiritual journey was healing. And then we went to Egypt. She did this sacred site tour in Egypt. And I was like, I'm in, I have to go. And I went and things just started opening up. It was crazy. Like my dreams opened up in a new way. And I should backtrack a bit. When I first started working with Brooke, she would say, she's in Los Angeles. I was living in Vancouver, Canada at the time. And she's like, just so you know, like before our sessions, like 3 days before and 3 days after, I work with you in the dream world. It's called night school. I call it night school because I don't know what else to call it. And you probably won't remember, but just know, like, we're doing energetic work together. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, sounds kind of crazy, but sure. What do I know? And so when I was in Egypt with her, that's when I started remembering night school for the first time. Wow. And it was super powerful because we were in, now I'm forgetting the name of the town or the city that is like, it was like the heart of, it was like one of the main portals. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, but the hotel we were staying at, there was this dog, this black dog there, and the dog's name was Anubis. And if people know Anubis, he's actually like an Egyptian god, and he is a dog, and he's the god of dreams and the underworld and other like the shadow realm, you could say. And so this dog was staying at this hotel. And it was funny because in the middle of the night, I had this dream and I was like, oh my gosh, this is night school. This is night school. And then in real life, that dog, Anubis, started barking and woke me up. And it caused me to remember night school for my first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so magical.
How cool. So was
Yeah.
this night school that you were remembering something that Brooke was instigating with you?
Yes.
At that moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Abydos, that's the name of the city.
Okay.
But yeah, so when I was in Egypt, everything just started opening up. I still didn't know that I was a dream oracle. I was just like, oh, I'm just like much more conscious in the dream world. And I'm understanding clearly what these messages are that spirit is sharing with me. And then we went to the temple of Hatshepsut. And Hatshepsut, for those who don't know, was the only female pharaoh who got full pharaoh power in ancient Egypt. And so we were at her temple, and my teacher, Brooke, kind of pulls me aside and she's like, Holly, did you know that one of the reasons that she reigned for as long as she did was because she had these oracles that worked for her, and they worked with her or for her through the dream world. And what they would do is they were trained to go into the dream world and go into the minds of the quote unquote enemies who wanted to overthrow her and understand what their plans were. Then they would wake up and they would tell the Pharaoh, and they would tell whoever they needed to. So whenever there was a enemy trying to take over, she was always prepared. I was like, wow, I've never heard of that before. And that's like wild and crazy. And I'm not sure if I entirely believe that. But like, if that's true, like, I remember my ego was like, I want that past life. Cause I felt this connection with Egypt. I'm like, I know I've had past lives here. And that just like resonated with me. And she didn't tell me that I did that specifically, but she just like plants these little seeds. So she planted that seed in me. And then about 6 months after Egypt, I had this Akashic record reading. And I was just like, I guess just tell me whatever my spirits want to tell me, my spirit guides. And this woman, and I still have the recording of the Akashic record. She literally said word for word what my teacher Brooke said in Egypt about, you were an oracle and you would work with dreams and you would go into the dream world and like, well, and she said literally word for word. I was crazy. And I was like, what? Is this a thing? And I had already started, like, since coming back from Egypt, I was starting to share dream messages on my Instagram and sharing dream stuff on Instagram. And it just kind of grew from there. And so really, this all came about very unintentionally. But I guess my soul wanted me to connect in with this in this lifetime.
I love how it is the unexpected, right here. You're the unexpected, soul warrior here to do what you're here to do. And I think that's the message for all of us, that we all are here. Our souls are all here to do something magnificent and unique to us and to our path and what we chose to come in to learn here. So when we were talking about healing earlier, it's like, well, you could look at it that, our soul chose to have this human experience of being abandoned or being abused or being whatever it was, so that we could learn certain lessons, heal in certain ways, to be opened up to our gifts so that we could then live out that what our soul mission is for this incarnation. And that to me is the path, that we can get onto or not. We can just suffer in our human too. This is have that life. Like that's, sure, you can choose that. But I love your story because it's the choosing of the hard, what seemingly is the harder path, the healing of the wounds, to then find these gifts to then open up to this power that you never asked for or wanted or certainly sought, but here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. And it's enhancing both your life and now clients' lives, right? You work with clients in this way. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I work with people in a couple different ways. One of the ways is I have a dream oracle school. And so I teach others to learn their personal dream language and learn to work with dreams themselves, become more conscious of their dream work so they too can get messages on their own. And then I also, so a dream oracle is essentially somebody who can dream on behalf of other people and somebody who can consciously connect with other people through the dream space, through the different dimensions, to work with them and heal them in the dream space and shift energetically to help them heal, transform, and align with their higher self. So there's like dream work where I teach people just to understand their own dreams. And then there's a dream work where I'll work with clients on an energetic level in the dream world, whether that is getting messages for them and then also energetically working with them, like on their with their energetic bodies in the different dimensions.
So it sounds very similar to working with someone in their Akashic records. You're just doing it while asleep.
It's all while I'm asleep.
In a different realm, maybe too.
Yeah. So I was doing like kind of one question dream oracle readings for people, but I found that I really want to work with people who want to go deeper. And so now I like to work with people who it's like dreaming for somebody for like 2 weeks or a month. And we're really like going deep together. We're going into it's fascinating because we'll like both dream the same dream. Like if my client is like a dreamer and they remember their dreams, we have like voice memos that we send back and forth and video stuff. And so we're constantly connecting during that time that I'm dreaming for them, like in this reality, but then we're also doing it in the dream world. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating because I'll uncover things from their past lives that they've kind of brought with them in this life to help heal and move beyond, and ancestral stuff or traumas that maybe they blocked out or that came from a past life that get triggered in this life. So it's really fascinating work. So I really like going deep with my one-on-one clients in that space. And then if people don't want to do that, then there's obviously like I do like dream coaching and dream interpretation sessions as well.
Wow. I've always been fascinated with dreams. I used to have, when I was younger, really rich dream life. I started, or I realized, I don't remember how I realized it, but I realized I was awake in my dreams often. And then don't realize, or don't remember how I looked up or learned about lucid dreaming, but I think just the fact that it was happening to me, it ended up, finding me, and I started looking into it. And I got a book when I was in high school called Lucid Dreaming. And I actually have it over there right now. It's one of those books that's like left my library a long, long time ago. I have no idea what ended up happening to it, but I reordered it from thrift books recently. So, and I ordered like the old copy, like the copy I had, because it's been reprinted and there's a new cover, and a few times over been these new covers, but I got like the old OG version that I used to own. So that it energetically holds that for me. And it came, it was like in tatters. I had to, I was like, oh, this is probably what my book would have looked like at this point.
Maybe it's the same book.
I know. I was like, is there any markings in here? But I got that book and started actually practicing these methods of lucid dreaming. And I found that I could then do it do it when I wanted to, not just when like it happened to me. I was making it happen, and I was learning about and starting to work with my dreams, and had the dream journal. So I would write everything down when I would wake up, and really starting to connect to that world. It's not something that I then, when I didn't go down any road with it, I just started going deep with it for a moment in time. And then I'm not sure what happened because I don't really recall the timeline. I had an accident when I was 16 that a traumatic brain injury. And I don't know if it was that's when my dream world started fracturing, or I didn't have as strong of dream recall, or if it was in line with other events in my life, because I went down, a darker path of alcohol and drug use that was, I think, really a strong indicator or a strong force in my life for dampening my dream recall as well. So it was either the brain injury or it was the alcohol and drug use, one or the two or all of it, that shut down my dreams to where I didn't remember or have that recall anymore until pretty recently in the last few years. So in the last few years, when I've entered into a new healing space, because as we were talking about healing earlier, of it not being this linear path, it's a constant opportunity that we have to go into deeper layers, continue unfolding. And so in this more recent, in the last 3-year unfolding that's been happening, my dreams have come alive again. And it's so incredible. It's like, it's more magical to me because I didn't have them for so long, or I didn't recall them. I would always say that. I'm like, I'm probably having them. I just don't remember them. But now it's like even more beautiful to me because I get to have it again, or they're back and they're really incredible. So I've been having fun in just the recall. I haven't done any work, so I'd love to hear more about how you guide people, just in the even from, as you mentioned, the coaching side of understanding their dreams more. Do you use specific, like, is it Jungian, or is it something that came from your teacher and your Egyptian past? Is it a combination of a bunch of things, or what are your lenses or the tools that you use for interpretation and guidance?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I find, like, for me, I haven't done like dream courses. I haven't studied under like specific dream teachers for like extended periods of time. I feel like most of where I'm drawing my work from is my guides, what they teach me in the spirit world. From my teacher, Brooke Still, she's the one but she's not like a dream teacher. I'm the only client that she has where she works with in this way. She's primarily like a healer, but she knows this dream stuff. And so she teaches me stuff. But I haven't even read any like Carl Jung stuff. I know some stuff just because it's out there, but I haven't studied under it. And really it's just based on my own experience. And I believe that we all have our own personal dream language. So when I'm working with clients and students, it's really about empowering them to drop into their intuition and start connecting with their dreams through their intuition versus their thinking mind. And our dreams are specific to, like, the language of our dreams is specific to the dreamer. And so, for example, like when I'm dreaming for a client, my guides know my dream language. And so my guides will connect to my client's guides to get the answers, and they'll like distill them to me through my dream language. And so, and then when I'm working with my students, I find that's when I can get intuition. Like the intuitive hits is like, And I also think it's coupled with the healing work that I've done. I can hear certain things that people are saying and understand what the layers are below what they're saying. And so I don't know if that totally answers your question, because I feel like
it does.
Yeah, I feel like
it's
kind of abstract. Like it's not
right.
like, oh, I trained with this teacher and this teacher, you know, like I feel like a lot of it comes from past lives and just wisdom that shared with me through the dream world. And then my teacher book.
Yeah, that says a lot, because, and this has been something on my mind and my heart a lot recently, of where I'm personally at, that so much of my spiritual connection, my trust in my soul, my understanding of at least my own interpretation of what's going on out here in the world, or what's going on in here, all of it is a collection of the experiences that I've had, more than it is the books I've read and the courses that I've done and the lineages I've studied under. I haven't had that kind of life either. Have I read certain books? Absolutely. Like, gone to certain, retreats or events. I mean, I haven't even gone to many of those. Like, I haven't done a ton of, I would say, spiritual study, but what I've done is been open to my experience, been open to, my own healing, and the being the person who does that work, who then connects to their own soul, gets the messages from everywhere. It's like now you're connected into, as you mentioned earlier, the unity, what I call the oneness, right? Where you're connected into all of that. Then we can understand the messaging that comes from and through these different books, lineages, courses, etc., as all kind of an interpretation of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is even more real than having studied under XYZ, person and received, all of these hours of training. I feel like we all have the capability without any training. And this is honestly why I created this podcast, because I want people to see that in themselves, that you don't need to go off to India for 20 years and study, under some guru, or go and do anything specific, that you get to understand the miracle of life and the wisdom of the universe by just connecting in to yourself. It's like plug in, connect in, align and attune, and then all of it pours in. Like for you, it's pouring in through the dream world, and others it might pour in through waking meditation and connecting to Akashic records. Yeah, there are many tools out there that allow us to connect in. But it doesn't have to be one way or one channel. And so we get to choose you get called, like you did, to certain things. We get to choose and try out different things. So that's really the message of this podcast, or why, at least my intention of starting it, is so that people can see that you are already that soul in a body, and you are already that mystic connected to the divine. And when you realize that, make the decision, and then connect in, it's like, okay, you're there already. You don't need to go through anything else.
Yeah. I like what you said there, because I think sometimes it can be easy for people to just like plug in and be like, oh, this is the teacher. Like, I have to follow everything this person says, like this person's words are true. And maybe that is the right path for somebody. And also, I think it's great to question, and it's great to dabble, and it's great to follow the little tugs of your heart that pull you in one direction, and then change your mind and you go in a different direction. And, there's all these, like, our path is not linear. Our awakening path is not linear. Our healing path is not linear. Our journey is not linear, and connecting with our gifts is not linear. And so, yeah, it can come from so many different sources, but ultimately it's like that inner guidance that you're talking about that we can all tap into at any moment. And that's where everything exists, like the answers, the truth, what you're seeking for. It's all within, and connecting in with that guidance is really the most important thing. Instead of empowering somebody else and putting somebody else on a pedestal, you're putting yourself there first. And you're like, what, like I always say this to my students, I'm like, just what intuitively feels right for you. Like, don't listen to me. I don't know what's right for you. Nobody knows what's right for you. You only know what is right for you. What feels good for you? What is your intuition telling you about this situation, this person, this experience, this, challenge, whatever it is? Like, connect into yourself. You have the power to be your guide, your own guide, your higher self,
And I love that you teach people in a way that gives them the power to for their own life or over their own life. But we all still need each other. And I think that's, the important message is that we're all divine. We all have beautiful gifts to share, but some of our gifts are different. So, we can learn from other people and learn from through their lens, because they have different gifts and different ways of disseminating truth and understanding about that connection to ourselves. And so it's wonderful to have people like you who are living out your gifts. You are living into your soul's journey here and sharing that with others so that they then can live into their own, right? Not so that they can pay you tons of money and hold you up on a pedestal and, call you a guru. You're doing it so that you can open people up to their own divinity. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. My life mission is definitely about helping people heal and transform so they can align more fully with their higher selves and then create their life from that aligned place. Because I believe that when we are living in that aligned place, we will be so much more accepting, compassionate, loving, joyful, peaceful beings on this planet than what we currently have. So I'm very passionate about empowering people to step into their own divinity and higher self.
Yeah. My first career was as a healer. I did both body work and energy work. And in the midst of that, I studied all different types of medicines and medicinal systems. And I learned of whether it's true or not, it was beautiful, but it was a story of ancient Chinese healers and the way that they would charge their clients. And so they would heal obviously energetically, because if you know anything about Chinese medicine, it's all about the energetics of the body and balancing that. And they would only charge their clients, patients, when they were healed. So we're done here. Okay, now pay me this money. Like, we're done. Like, don't come back. Don't come and see me. And I loved that story. I wanted my clients to be like that. And I wanted to have that relationship with them. What I realized is that I needed to become that first. I needed to become the one that was able to give up all of the treatments and the medicine, and become my own medicine and become that for myself. And so I've been on this path or this journey to become that for myself, not by myself, but for myself and with myself, because of how powerful that was to me. It resonated so strongly with me. So the empowerment of understanding yourself through your dream healing, and also then understanding yourself through your dream life is such a beautiful way to serve. And I love that you're connecting in with people that way. What for you has been, because I'm assuming you do this work for yourself as well. So what's been the most profound aha or learned, I guess the most powerful aha or thing that you've learned through the interpretation of your dreams?
Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so many things. There's been so many experiences.
Top three.
Top three. Okay. One is definitely energetic healing that I believe helped shift the relationship that I have with my mom, my adopted mom, my mom who raised me. We always had a challenging relationship, and I had gotten to a point where I was just like, okay, like I love my mom. I accept her for who she is. And I know, like, I just really didn't think that I would ever have the type of relationship that I wanted to have with her. Like a close relationship, one where we just like really, respected each other and loved each other and just spent time and enjoyed that time. And, just like a really nice mother-daughter relationship. I was like, okay, we're not going to have that, and that's okay. And I just kind of accepted it. And then I started having these dreams where my mom and I would connect, and we would share and we would talk, and it was like very healing. Like we would be crying together in our dreams, and we would be like speaking to each other in a way that was so honest and open and loving and forgiving and accepting. And it was like so beautiful. Like I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, like that was amazing. And so having those dreams were really powerful because I do believe that they helped to shift my relationship with my mom. My mom did her work. I've done my work, and now like things are amazing. But on an energetic level, it was such a beautiful witness and experience to how dreams and what we do in the dream world can energetically shift those subconscious layers and energetic bodies so we can be more open to receive and experience that consciously in this reality. So that one was pretty amazing. I've had some really cool experiences with different dream teachers in the dream space where they'll come to me and they'll teach me different things. So that's pretty cool. And then also just conversations that I've had with my spirit guides in the dream space. That's been pretty cool. And then dreaming for others and working with, I'm doing 4.
Good.
Dreaming for others and working with them in the dream space, and then seeing the shifts in their waking reality. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's such a true expression of you stepping into your gifts to be able to really give that. Because I believe, when we discover our gifts, the intention or the reason that we have them is to share them with others, is to use them out in the world, not just being like, hoarding these gifts for yourself, right? Yeah. So the fact that you are actually expressing that and dreaming for other people as an oracle it's like the culmination of that journey that you get to now share that with other people and help them and allow them to see themselves that way. It's just a beautiful expression of your journey.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. It's, I love giving love to people who are living out their truth, and that's what I see in you, that you are, you've done the hard work. You're doing the hard work, or the work that seems hard, but makes your life easy. You're doing it. But you're also applying it and helping others. And how beautiful is that? I mean, like you said earlier, if we were all doing that, the world would look a lot different. And we all do get to do that. We all get that opportunity, and for you to be stepping into it and living it is, I hope, inspirational to other people, whether or not they see themselves as doing that through the waking life, the dream life, whatever, wherever, and whatever realm. I know you'll, through this, what you've shared and who you are and the work that you're doing, which I want people to go and check out. So we'll put all your links in the show notes, because people like you who are out there doing the work are, even if you listeners don't connect to Holly to do work with her, you can learn from, and I hope be inspired. I certainly am by you, to be inspired to go and do your own work. Yeah. Go in and find your own gifts and go and express those. And if that's all you gain from, this conversation or from learning about someone like Holly, then that's enough, right?
Yeah, just like knowing that you have the permission to perhaps explore those parts of yourself that you didn't know were there or that you could explore, because what I do is not traditional. I mean, anybody in like the spiritual space is not really like traditional. And so, giving yourself, like listeners, permission to explore what your heart is pulling you towards, I think is a big takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, well, I think we'll end it there. I'm going to cut this part out, but thank you so much, Holly, for sharing your wisdom and your joy for the life you're living and the life you're giving to others.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved this conversation.
Me too.